Hi everybody. Okay, this is a video I wanted to do for a little bit, but I kind of kept it in my back pocket in case I didn't have anything else to talk about. So here it is. Okay, I'm talking about the series ER, the series that was from 1994 to 2009, 15 years. The reason why I have to distinguish between because there's a lot of programs about the medical profession. And a lot of them that either have emergency room in their description. So I have to delineate between ER. Okay, this series went for 15 years, like I said, and it is another series that introduced us to a lot of unknowns at that point. But they became famous because of the roles on the show. The only one that had a little recognition was George Clooney because he played Roseanne's boss on Roseanne, but only for a couple episodes. Um, yeah. So otherwise, everyone was unknown. You had Juliana Margulies and Anthony Edwards and Gloria Rubin, Eric LaSalle, a bunch of people. Okay, and the reason why I don't know all the names off the top of my head is because every year or two, the cast changed and they added more people or they put people on recurring. So it wasn't like a core group of people all the time. They were very interchangeable. But Mark Green was the star of the show. Anthony Edwards played Mark Green on the show. And he was known as the main character, basically. His the story centered around him for a long time. And then they spanned out to show all his other colleagues and his family, but it was basically him. Because his character wanted to be an ER physician because he liked the pace of it and he liked helping people. However, his wife, Jennifer, always wanted something more. She wanted the fancy position, more money, the perks of the job. She wanted that. And so you see the decline and eventual end of their marriage and how he deals with it versus how she deals with it. Um, they were separated for a while, and she's the one to move on first. And she married another doctor, but one that was self absorbed and didn't really care about her daughter, Rachel. Which Rachel is the one that Mark and Jennifer shared, you know, it was their child. So, and then also you see the evolution of Rachel's character also. Because she starts as a young girl, obviously, like 6 or 7, and then she matures and she sees what her dad does. And, she becomes really familiar and friends with all the nurses and everybody else, so they all know Rachel. Um, and then the divorce happens, and she doesn't cope with it too well, so she turns to substances. And then at season 8, I'm jumping around because I'm gonna get to other key moments too, but I'm trying to go in a linear like fashion. So okay, then in season 8, then season 7, 6 or 7, Mark finally gets engaged and married to Alex Corday, another doctor, or Elizabeth Corday, played by Alex Kingston. All right. And this is huge because he never thought he'd get married again, and he always knew he wanted to settle down. And George Clooney was the one who played Doug Ross. So Doug was always telling Mark, you don't have to settle down. You can have fun. He's like, no, I want to settle down. So he finally gets someone that wants to settle down. So they get engaged, married. She becomes pregnant, and then the storyline changes to where he has something in his brain, and he's going to pass away. But they saved him for another year because he was supposed to pass away in season 7. In season 8, everybody knows the episode. I hope you know. Where he literally passes away, and they show everything. The reason I remember it so clearly is because, well, first of all, I was almost 19, 20 at the time, and I had watched it the whole time. So this was the big moment. Um, and at first you think, okay, it's gonna be really cool, really scenic, then why, you know, but you see the progression of his disease, you know, and you feel for him because you remember what he was like in the beginning till now. But it's really touching because you also see the evolution of the relationship with his daughter. He knows that he has to get Rachel in a good place, and so that's his whole goal. He teaches her to drive a stick, and he tells her about life lessons a little bit, and they just bond. At first, it's contentious because father daughter, but ultimately they bond, and then they show the whole thing, and then they show the funeral after, and he says, "Don't cry for me," so she doesn't cry. But then she's in the car, and she sees balloons. So she gets a balloon and she releases it to heaven. So touching. I'm saying, if you're not crying at the end of the episode, there's something majorly wrong with you. Because every time, it doesn't matter how long ago I've seen it, I cry at the episode every time. Okay. To bring you into other storylines slightly. Okay, so Doug and Carol. Carol is a nurse and she wanted to become a doctor, but everybody said, "Why would you want to change? You're good as a nurse, whatever." So, in the very first episode, uh, they have her as a patient because she tries to unalive herself. And Doug feels guilty, because he feels like he could have done something. And I kind of know that feeling too, but another story. Okay. So, their relationship is very on again, off again the whole time. And so you're rooting for them, but then you want him to like grow up and treat her like she should be treated, the whole thing. But then by season 5, they finally get back together, and they're gonna be together for a long time because as we do, she tries to move on, try to go into other relationships and try, but he's always on the back of her mind, and then he finally comes to get her. And they also have this lovely montage and a song in the background, "Coming Home" or whatever it is, by Don Henley, and it's just a great one because it like totally fits the situation. And then you don't get the absolute conclusion of their story until way later, um, because while he was gone, she was pregnant with his twins, but he didn't know that. Okay. And then season 15, when we finally end, the last episode, it involves everybody because they're trying to get everybody back, right? The initial cast. So they're together, Doug and Carol, and they receive a call and that someone needs help, or someone needs a transplant or something. And and then you know that they're together just because they're in the same house in bed together. So you kind of cheer. You actually cheer the whole time because Rachel, the daughter, Mark's daughter, is going into medical school, and she's gone to the top schools. Okay, so I mean she's kind of a shoe in, and also she's known by everyone. So you kind of know. I mean, like myself, I usually say I don't like stories that don't tell you, but you can kind of take the leap of foreshadowing and know that she's going to be the lead doctor or whatever in the ER like her father was. So you get the full circle moment, which I always love. So yeah. And then of course there were other characters too. Like I said, there was you know, um, Gloria Rubin. She played Jeannie Boulet, and she was the wife of a what was he? Insurance sales or some I don't know what. So he was having affairs, and he contracted a virus that ultimately unalives, if you know what I'm talking about. So she was the first character on a show like that to have the first African American character to have that. And and I like the trajectory of the character because they showed she could have a thriving life, and not just succumb to the disease. So I appreciate that. Um, yeah. So that is my love letter to ER. And like I said, please forgive me, but if I talked about every cast member that ever was, this would be a 2 hour thing. So, alright. Bye, everybody.